Hello, everybody. It is Thursday. It is May 5th. It is 2011, and this is Day 9 Daily number 300. Manfred, we've come so far. You are so cute. Look at how cute this rabbit is. Look, he's so floppy. And Manfred will be joining me today. He'll be hanging out. You will hear little beanie noises. And that is Manfred. He is very, very, very excited to be here, as am I, because exactly 300 episodes ago was Day 9 Daily number 1. It was about Flash vs. Hero on Heartbreak Ridge. And, oh my gosh, it was like 30 minutes long. I was awkward and kind of silly and dumb and cold, like, alright guys, I'm going to share a little bit about strategy. I don't know, take it or leave it. I just think it's perhaps a little bit of useful information, okay? And all it took to get to episode 300 was relentless showing upitude. And that's one thing that I just want to throw out there. There's always so many people out there who say things like, I'm really into bridge, and I wanted to make a website about bridge. Or, I'm into Starcraft too, and I want to do a show. I want to get into commentary. What's the technique or the trick? The most important thing is to just do it. Just freaking do it, man. If you have an idea, if you're like, I want to write a book about Starcraft, write that book. That sounds awesome. I don't read that many books about Starcraft. You should do it. And if any of you have any aspirations out there, I just say, do it, man. Freaking do it, and you can. And that is actually a little bit of the topic of today's daily. Oh, I have all that dehydration stuck in my throat. Oh, how awesome. Now, typically, when it's like a, X 100 episode, I want something special to occur. Today's day will be special, but there's nothing like extreme out of the ordinary because I had this little thing called graduate school. I'm in my last week of graduate school. My last week. In 1 week, guess what happens? Why don't you guess? Why don't you tell me what happens in 1 week? In 1 week, I will be doing Starcraft 2 full time. My whole life day plan. I'll wake up and be like, how do I Starcraft 2 better? That's all that's going to happen every single day, starting in 1 week. I'm excited. Sweet! So, let's move on to the topic of today's daily, which is going to be all about Sheth. Now, I have to let you know, I'm still on the extremely unstable computer because I still have 1 more week of grad school and cannot afford to reformat because I just need every hour of every day available so that I can actually cross that finish line. However, you're still, see all this thesis under my eyes? You see that? Yeah, that's why I haven't reformatted yet. So we're just giving an HD recording a shot today. If it crashes, I'll be back and we'll just lose an HD recording. No big deal. Dailies will happen nonetheless. Here's what's going to happen today. We're going to watch games of Sheth. And it's not just going to be a game of Sheth, like, oh, Sheth is cool, look how he was cool in this one game. This is what's great about what Sheth is doing for the community. He streams a lot and uploads all the replays to his site, fxosheth.com. fxosheth.com. I think I spelled it right, yes. So, if you go there, you can get replay packs of all the replays that we're going to look at today and all the replays for the future. And this is what excites me, is that we can use that as an amazing starting point to not just learn how to play Zerg, but to get inspired. Oh, how amazing. Because inspiration is something that happened last night in the GSL. Now, what I'm going to say is not actually going to spoil the results, so if any of you haven't seen it, this should just get you more excited to see it. Nesty, the Zerg player, played inspirationally in some of the games. He played a Zerg that was so sexy and different that it made me want to go play Zerg. Whether he ended up winning or losing the games, it was just like, whoa, I want to do that too. Now, I will say, I played Zerg in Brood War, and when I switched over to the Starcraft 2 Zerg, I was kind of like, because of the fact that I missed my Scourge, I missed my Lurkers, I missed my extremely fast units. And in Starcraft 2, it just doesn't feel the same way. But, doesn't mean that I have to try to use my same Zerg rules from StarCraft 1 and all that jazz. But it does mean that I've always been more excited when my random spawns me as Terran or Protoss, right? Because I actually don't like roaches. They're just slow. But what happened is I got so inspired last night, I said, you know what, I just want to delve into Zerg. I've actually been playing a lot of Zerg in the last 2 weeks, having a lot of fun with it. So now I want to grab a player, I want to watch a bunch of his games, and I want to learn everything that I can. And I'm sure that many of you are out there, such as aspiring gold, platinum, diamond players, and even some of you bronzies and silveries too. But some of those people who have a good bit of experience, kind of have their comfort zone, and they want to improve. And what's the way to go to the next step in terms of mimicking someone else's playstyle? That's what we're going to be doing today. So this is the way that we're going to do it. I have this replay pack here. If I go to this multiplayer area, yeah, there it is. See, this replay pack you can once again get at fxosheth.com. I'm going to be looking through to mimic some games from Sheth. We see there's some Zerg vs. Zergs. We have some Zerg vs. Protosses here as well. There's some Zerg vs. Terrans and all that good jazz. We only have time for one daily today. Oh, how tragic. So this is how I'm going to deal with this problem. This is actually going to be very similar to how I would take this replay pack and how I would learn through it. Isn't that right, Manfred? What we're going to do is we're going to just pick one matchup. I don't know, let's pick a matchup at random here. Let's do Zerg vs. Protoss, because again, I watched the GSL last night. You should definitely watch Any Pro vs. ST. Amazing, amazing series. Actually, from both players, Any Pro also did some really nutty kick-ass shit. But anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to pick one matchup, and now we're just going to watch a lot of games of Sheth playing that matchup. And I even want to do one further step if I can. Are there any games of him just playing on the same map? See, here's a Zerg vs. Protoss on Shakuras Plateau. Okay, cool. Are there any other Shakuras Plateau games here? Well, it looks like here's another Zerg vs. Protoss on Shakuras Plateau. There's another one on Shakuras Plateau. Okay, cool. So what I will do is I'm actually going to watch through these two games first. Let's just begin near the bottom with D Bling. Now, I think everyone is probably pretty familiar with this general technique that you want to scope down. If you're learning a race, you don't want to just learn every matchup all kind of at the same time in any order. A lot of folks will do the Zerg vs. Protoss as many times as they can thing. But I want to try to break up what I'm trying to learn into little compartments. The first thing that I always want to learn, and what I generally think is the most important component, is a general game plan. Now, you can have different game plans, like this is what I do against an early expander, and this is what I do against a very fast gas one basing player. So you can have those two different game plans, but I want to be able to have a game plan. Something simple like I will take 3 bases and be getting +1 range before I really make a lot of roaches, and then I'm going to make a lot of roaches. Is that right or wrong? I don't know, but it's so easy to state. And again, the biggest reason why I always want to be able to draw game plans out first is because when I march off onto the ladder, there are going to be situations that I didn't see in this replay, and I want to have somewhere that I can just head to. Like, holy shit, this guy's doing he's going mass, immortal. He has 4 robotics facilities, and he's going immortal. Well, I guess my original game plan in this situation was to go Zergling Baneling. I guess I'll just still go Zergling Baneling because it's just something to go for. So game plan is the first big thing. Another big thing is looking at a little bit of variety in terms of just some of the decision making that I'm going to try to just pull out that seems to make sense to me. Are his decisions along the path something that I can state and then reuse? Like, whenever he sees a Stargate, he's going to throw down 2 gas geysers really fast. Something like that. I want to try to see as many little link-ups between what the other guy's doing and what he's doing. And then the last thing that I really want to look at is little tiny mechanical things. Like, if he's making roaches early, when he's at 25 supply of 28, he actually makes 2 overlords instead of 1. Something like that will allow me to just steal how Sheth refined, so I can just be refined as well. Excuse me, the delicious energy drink I had beforehand is trying to rebel. So what I am going to note is that I want to do this game plan stuff first, and then I want to come back and do the refining. And the sound was disabled. Excellent. I guess that means I was studying like a good boy today. All right, cool. So we do see that. All right, it's going to be kind of a usual early expand with this fast Zergling speed. Looks like our Protoss opponent did some kind of early expand. And I am going to be going through this game pretty darn quickly. And let me just note that, for entertainment purposes, I would never blast through a game. Like, if I saw something like a match of the century, like MC versus Nestea, and like 100 replays were released, I would want to savor those juicy morsels. But if I'm trying to learn, let's find out kind of where this Zerg was going to, instead of just sort of blindly marching forward. I want you to think of that as an analogy, like if you were writing a story, you should probably have an outline for the entire plot of your story. You shouldn't just write a scene and be like, I wonder what I'm going to write about tomorrow. You want to have a clear direction right from the get-go. So I'm seeing Sheth. Wow, he's taking a pretty early third. I'll note broad things like no layer yet. I'll note little concerns I have, like, ooh, creep spread, not quite joining those bases together. Roach Warren and Evolution Chamber getting thrown down. And as we're going to watch more games, we're actually going to see Sheth consistently build this Roach Warren and this Evo Chamber at approximately the same time. Now, here's something that I will note that I'm not looking for in this first playthrough. Sheth's Roach Warren finished at the exact same time that the layer finished. That is a useful timing that I will want to steal. Any Zerg or Terran or Protosses, or even some Zergs out there, I bet a lot of you don't know when to start your Roach Warren, so that right when it finishes, your layer finishes. We're going to learn that today, but not in the first playthrough. Because that is not a useful timing to know if I have no fucking clue how I'm going to win the game, right? I'll have a beautifully timed loss, and that's not what we want. We want that game plan first. We want that big sack of data getting slammed down. Oh, holy, what the Phoenix is. What the Phoenix is. Now, what we're going to see, and part of the reason why I rigged this, so we ended up watching this game first, this is weird. What the hell? What, if we actually go back to Deepling's base, he's actually going for 2 Stargates just on 2 Warp Gates. He's doing some crazy aggression. What do we see in Sheth do? Sheth is getting a lot of Spore Crawlers. He lost some Queens. We see a Hydralisk Den going down. But overall, what we're going to note from watching a lot more games is that Sheth's overall game plan is not really going to change that much. See, we see more drones being made in the unit counting station. 76 drones, 6 Zerglings. 76 drones and 6 Zerglings. That is my army. Cool. Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. And when do we end up seeing some roaches begin to get made? Well, let me see if I can get some sort of trigger going here. Like, gosh, there's still drones being another expansion going down. And we can note things like, yeah, I mean, if we see all these Phoenixes, we know that the attack has to be coming a little bit later. We're seeing Infestors and Hydralisks start getting produced. That seems like obviously pretty good. We're having some upgrades end up spawning out. Like, insane dronage going on. And now, finally, we're beginning to produce some units. So it looks like an overall game plan was get all the upgrades for roaches. Like, in particular, the speed. We even got the burrow upgrade. Actually, let me select a roach so you can see that. Yeah, there he is. So we can even see the burrow upgrades finished. We can see that it... he doesn't quite have his tunneling claws done yet, but still we're getting all the basic roach upgrades. But we don't really make roaches for a very, very, very long time. Looks like he's going for a usual roach Hydra mix, but some infestors are thrown in here. Ooh, this is pretty nifty. Now, one thing I will note is Deebling actually went for an insane all-in. Like, look at this. This is 9 gateways. There's no attempt to even expand here. This is just absolutely all-in-ish beyond belief. All-in-ish beyond frickin' belief. Alright, cool. Alright, well, he ends up throwing down some pretty typical bundle growth and ends up engaging this army, but this is always kind of a moment where I'm always a little bit concerned because I'm like, holy crap, that's a whole lot of stuff. And I think this is a moment where many Zergs will just leave the game. I just will actually be willing to pause this here to learn what sort of basics we end up seeing. He's going to be replenishing only roaches. I think that's pretty typical. And as we're going to see, Sheth is actually going to hold this off. Wow. Sheth actually ends up defending this. Unbelievable. And if you look at the food counts, holy crap, 117 to 94. And I mean, even incorporating the drones, we see that Sheth has a significantly bigger army. He's going to have to pull back a bit, but once all these roaches end up popping out, we're going to see Sheth is actually okay. So, what I have ended up pulling out of this replay, and that we're actually going to see this in a number of other games, is that in terms of a big game picture, it's looking kind of like a typical Roach Hydra mixture with really, really well-timed droning, really well-timed upgrades, etc., etc., etc. Let's grab a few juicy morsels in terms of these responses. I'm not going to worry about mechanics like not mechanics, like the ultra tiny refinements, like when overlords are popping out. I do want to learn those, and we will look at those today, but let's actually remove the overlay bar, and I want to pop back to an immediate key moment, which is, when the hell did Sheth actually begin producing stuff? It looks like, if I go to my unit counting station, alright, cool. Looks like, yep, nope, no units being produced yet. Still getting upgrades. I'm actually just going to stare here for a minute. Wow, look at all those drones getting made. Hell, we're at 11 minutes and 30 seconds. That's kind of nuts. Wow, and we're even seeing that extra evolution chamber go down. And we begin getting Hydralis. It looks like at 12 minutes. 12 minutes, I'm starting to see a whole bunch of stuff get built. I mean, is that too early? Is that too late? I guess with the Phoenixes, that ends up being okay. But I'm just going to kind of note that 12-minute timing in my head. That seems kind of useful. And at that 12-minute mark, favoring some of the juicier units first. The Hydras, the Infestors. Yep, there's the Hydras and the Infestors coming down. Not a lot of Roaches. But once we see this army pop out, it looks like a pretty typical Zerg response. Once he sees the army end up on its way out, he's going to only be making Roaches. Just Roaches all the time. Seems pretty good. Seems pretty good. Now, I'm going to do something that will probably cause cries of heresy and disappointment, etc. Yeah, still making largely Roaches. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave this game. Now, that's probably a little bit weird for a lot of folk, because the way I actually talked to a number of people and asked them, how do you end up trying to learn if you're like feeling crappy about a matchup? And the answer that I kept hearing a lot was that they'll watch one game really hard, or 2 or 3 games really, really hard. I actually don't like that plan so much. Because what'll happen is you're working in such a small, tiny box that you will rule at just inside that box. But any time you step out of that, there's going to be this gross lostness type of feeling. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to watch another game on the same map that's about the same time length, which I can do because in Sheth's replay packs, he actually includes lots of games. And of course, Sheth is playing against Slog. A lot of good stuff coming out. Now, I actually have watched this game before. Alright, so we're seeing, it looks like a gas pool opening. Don't care about the specifics, that's the last thing I want to look at. I want to look at some big game plan stuff. I'm happy to try to talk about a few more details. This game. Now, this is something funny that's going to happen. We're actually going to see Sheth just wander right in here and kill the cannon. And Slog's going to be doing the good old FML. But I'm actually not going to be as concerned about that, because the important thing is, how the hell is Sheth doing fancy things back home with his economy timing? And this is, again, some of this big game picture stuff. Wow, when he was against Phoenixes, he did X. When he, it's so easy to fall into this trap of being like, if I see Phoenixes, I do this. And if I break his ramp and he does this, then I'm going to respond this way. If he's a Colossus, I'm going to respond this way. And if you watch one player play like 50 games, you're going to see that they kind of drift to the same equilibrium point every time. So that's kind of what I'm trying to discover as best I can. Looks like Sheth has enough money to take a third. Will he be doing so? Looks like he's still making a lot of drones. Looks like he's spending some good amount of micro time in there. Yeah, he's still getting his third base before he ends up really getting any additional gas. He's putting guys back in gas. Oh, look, a double expand. Okay. Now, this is something that kind of feels a little... Oh, I tried to throw my phone on my bed, and instead I threw it on the floor. Nice. So this is probably going to feel a little bit like, whoa, craziness. And if we look at the food, 62 versus 38, all right, I'm feeling good. But I want to try to see if there is any theme that I can draw between these two games. If there's any overall theme. We're seeing, it looks like Evolution Chamber and Roachhorn at about the same time. Not identically timed, but at approximately the same time. Should probably, if you're going to get 2 Evolution Chambers, Sheth, you should probably begin upgrading out of them. LOL. But yeah, he's still getting plenty of drones. He's going to make some roaches. And what does he do when the layer's done? Is he still going to be going for his speed and burrow? Yep, there's the burrow going down. Is he still going to be going for speed? Yep, looks like the speed's going down. Yeah, okay. I'm going to just briefly poke around here. And now I'm going to be able to make kind of a clean statement. In both of these games, we've seen that Sheth is kind of favoring earlier extra bases. He's not staying on 2 base and getting roaches and hydras and then taking a third. He's taking a third before layer pretty consistently. And I know I have 2 data points, but I have more games to support that. More games that we won't watch, but that you would watch, right? But I want to note the link that we've seen between these 2 games. He's going for kind of an early expansion. He's going to be getting kind of an early +1. He's going to start the +1 right around the same time he starts the Roach Warren. Seems pretty reasonable. As a defense, he's going to be getting Burrow and Roach Speed consistently. That's what we've seen. And he would like a second Evolution Chamber as fast as he could. These are sort of statements that I would be making. So if I am going to try to mimic Sheth, these are the rules that I'm going to follow. I want to get that third up. I want to be poking outside the front of his base. And I'm going to be trying to do mainly a Roach-ish defense with a hell of a lot of upgrades in speed and burrow. Boom! I now am almost as good as Sheth. Wasn't that easy? It took 21 minutes and 17 seconds to do that. And I even had an intro. Fantastico! Yes, and we're seeing in this game Sheth. Hey, wait a minute. Look at this. Okay, now I've been wonderfully consistent in my complete and total ignoring of the Protoss pieces. But let's actually go to the Sheth cam. Let's go to the Sheth cam. And let's bring my overlay back. God, that's a great overlay. Oh, yes. So, you know, we have the Overlord marching on. And look at this. Drones still being made. In the last game, when did all those units start getting made? Well, it was around 12 minutes. And then when we saw a whole bunch of gateway units coming out of the front, then we began to make roaches. We actually are in here and we see all this. Look at how consistent Sheth is. Look at this, still making drones. So we went from big game plan, right? That's the first thing that I want to do, big game plan. And now we're moving on to some little details about responses and interactions. I saw him do this, therefore I'm going to do this. In this game, he sees a huge amount of gateways. He sees 5 gateways in the main and knows that there is a 6th one up at the front. And he's still making drones. Still making drones. Consistent between both games. That same response, that little nugget that we saw. No roach is going to be made until we actually see stuff coming out. And that's actually quite important because it's very easy to see this and to go, haha, I now know what this complete loser is doing. He's going for a big gateway push. I will have roaches up in response. You build all your roaches and no guys come out. And now you have a shitty economy. And you feel like doo-doo. You feel like, as would be the case in GChat. By the way, didn't you know in GChat that actually makes poop? Very good. So now you have learned at least 2 things today. How to make poop in GChat and how to be as good as potentially the best Zerg outside of Korea. That's right. Along with, yeah, all right, look, you're really good, Sheth, all right? We know how to be as good as you now. Ugh. So, let's come back here. Let us come back here. We see now, looks like more geysers going down. And you know, all the, like, the gas timings, all stuff, I don't care about that right now. I'm learning some basic structures, some principles that I can extract out of this. Still a lot of roaches. And I'm seeing, in this game, no Hydra Den at all. Oh, so maybe Sheth never really wanted that many Hydras in the first place? I don't really know. I certainly would claim that getting the Hydras against the Phoenixes seemed reasonable, and getting the Infestors against the Phoenixes seemed reasonable. But it doesn't look like Sheth's clear goal. Look at this, using Zerglings to sweep around the back, just having a lot of roaches. Slog's in a fairly reasonably good position. Alright, cool. Yeah, look at the +2 going down. Still just getting a lot of roach upgrades. Yeah, good stuff. Pretty straightforward. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that noteworthy. I mean, when we ended up seeing drones get made, and when we ended up seeing units get made, it's been pretty clear thus far. We're going to hit a moment where there's going to be less clarity, And that's actually fun. We're actually going to do that, not in this game, but a couple of games down the line. So, oh, whoopsie daisies. One of my admins just notified me that I did not correctly adjust my stream link on Team Liquid. Oh my goodness. Allow me to do that. Thank you, gamer. Ugh. The travails of doing a live show every night. You'd think after 300 episodes I wouldn't mess this up, but I am dumber than a sack of hot doorknobs. Yes. Excellent. All right, cool. Let me come back to the game. Perfect. Everyone on Team Liquid can find us now. Now, what we're going to do is I actually asked Sheth if there was any game where he did not end up successfully mauling his opponent, and he said he played a game against Grubby where he was pretty sure that it didn't turn out so well. So let's go ahead and watch this. Look at Grubby. Oh, look at him having a little LOL. Little happy, friendly conversations. Yes, they're great. Oh, how wonderful. Hey! Here is a little bit of a twist. We are seeing Grubby not do an early expand. We're going to see Sheth do the same opening. I still want to kind of go for some general big game plan stuff and some basic, simple relationships. We're going to come all back to some fancy mechanics business. But we see essentially the same opening from Sheth. He's poking around, and this is actually kind of a clever thing that a lot of Zergs have been doing lately. They just attack early on. They just get all their Zerglings, and they actually just try to break through here. And if you have a handful of Zerglings, you actually can break through it. So we're seeing something wildly different than the previous game. Like, super, excessively, crazily different. And I want to note this interesting little moment. Notice that we are up against a non-expanding player with a low sentry count, implying that he is doing something with a lot of gas, right? So if I saw less than 3 sentries, or 3 or less sentries, I would assume Dark Templar or Void Ray or Blink Stalker or anything that requires a lot of gas, right? And this is a pretty reasonable response from Zerg. But we're seeing similarities go on all the time. Look at this. Roach Evolution Chamber and Roach Horn get thrown down simultaneously. You see this little component here? This little component? Yeah, against an early expanding player, we took an extra base, and then we did this. Since our opponent didn't early expand, we're just going to do this same little shape. That's a useful little shape for me. And it looks like the instant the Phoenixes were revealed to start doing damage, Sheth is just going to cancel that Roach Horn. I'm going to end up taking a little bit of abuse. We have some Spore Crawlies that get thrown down. Oh no, you're lifting my queens. Oh no, what a tragedy. I really think that this Evolution Chamber should probably be doing something at this point. And it looks like some Zerglings tried to poke in and do at least something, but we're looking like, oh, well, it's not looking so great for our Zerg hero. Oh no, how tragic that we end up watching not just games of our favorite players winning. Now, like, let's suppose that a Hydra Den goes down, as we see it going down right there. It's easy to say something like, well, why didn't Sheth end up getting that missile attack early on? I don't want you to ever, at this point, try to criticize a player when you're trying to learn. You can look at that and just say, you know, if I were in this situation, I would probably get a +1 there. And so great, now you can learn all the good parts about Sheth's style, and you can also sort of incorporate some of your own little tweaks in there. I personally am a huge fan of sneaking in little early upgrades. I know Idra's a huge fan of sneaking in a lot of early upgrades. Like a lot of Zergs are huge fans of sneaking in early upgrades. You understand? Early upgrades are good. So, looks like Grubby's just going to do a very nice timing attack, and Sheth is going to be marginally underprepared for it. And by that, I mean he's probably going to die in like a couple of seconds. And in a game like this, where something like this happens, you don't actually have to discard this as a game where you cannot do learning. Because we can actually come right here, and we could say something like, you know what? Maybe you should have just left that Roach Warren up. Like, how did Sheth end up so completely underprepared for that? Now, what I want to note really quickly, is that in terms of a big game sense, I don't exactly know the clear path that Sheth was going down. the first thing I always do is talk about the big game plan. What the hell is Sheth's big, broad, general game plan going to be? Was it going to be Roach Hydra? It was really Roach heavy in the first 2 games we saw, but in this game kind of died before that got off the ground. But we're seeing hints of that, like the Roach Warren and Evolution Chamber get thrown down early. If I had to bet money, I would probably just say that Sheth was going to get Hydralisk just to deal with that. And then as he's getting his 3rd base up, he would go right back into the roaching play. Let me just actually ask him, is that accurate? Hopefully he's watching right now. Yeah. But let's see if that's accurate. But that's okay. I'm going to ignore that big game plan thing. Now I want to move on to that second thing. We still haven't really done any ultra refinements yet. We'll do that definitely in the next game. But in this game, what I want to really look at is what response went wrong, what little interaction relationship allowed a whole bunch of units just to march right in there. And to do this, I'm actually going to go to the Sheth cam. And I think it might actually be as simple a problem as that he lost all his Zerglings doing some little business here. And as a result, was still making too many drones. Yeah, look at all the units just swarm in. Holy frickin' crap. That is going to be too much for me to deal with. And this is actually a great way to lose, as Zerg, specifically. The reason I say this is that with Zerg, you either make drones or you make units. And in general, you want to have a lot of drones. So if you made too many drones and you died, that means that if you could have figured out a way to stay alive, you were in great shape for the later stages of the game. What you don't want to be in is where you make so many units, no one can kill you right now, but you are 100% going to lose in 3 minutes. I don't want any of that to happen. Do not want any of that to occur. So now, you know what? It looks like we've seen a pretty reasonable series of games here. We're starting to get a good sense of Sheth's overall game plans. We've learned some decisions. Would want to maybe explore more. Let's see here. Let us divine. Let's get some real ultra exact timings. Not just in a build order sense, but like try to discuss how these little refinements are good. Because one thing that I just want to throw out there that happens a lot, this is especially the case with not second-rate pros, that's not what I want to say. Second-generation pros, that's what I mean. There's a lot of first-generation pros, like pros that got good right when the game came out and stayed good and are always at the forefront. Players like Huck, Kiwikaki, Idra, who are some great Terran players who have always been phenomenal. How the hell am I blanking on this dude? Muslim's always been really good, but he freaking broke his arm. Oh, that's a bad build. I can't believe I'm literally not going to advance forward until I can name some Terran players. Drewby, I know, has been really good for a very, very long time. Nada, there we go. God, how the hell do I forget Nada? Whew. Anyways, there's a lot of players like this who are always kind of at the cusp of awesomeness, right? Like always near the top. But what can kind of happen for a lot of second-generation players, like second-generation pros, and in particular, people who are like gold and silver right now and want to be masters, is that they'll see a good player do a build and they'll say, oh, okay, if I attack with roaches now, it works. That's the dangerous part. That's the one thing that, as we're going to see when I delve into the mechanics, that I don't want to fall victim to. I don't want to say something like, build your Overlord on 15. I want to say something like, you build your Overlord at this time, so that way, if you build a Queen and a Zergling, the Overlord hatches just before you have enough money to build stuff out of that next larva. Because then I can say something like, if I want to delay my Queen, I should not get an Overlord on 15. I can actually make decisions. It's a real huge issue. To reiterate that again, it's so dangerous if you're copying people to just say, well, that's good because when I do it, it's really good. It's just a good time to attack. It just seems good. You want to have a little bit more development than that. So let us see here. Looks like, looks like Grubby's not coming to Columbus and Sheth begging, please. Okay, oh, that's actually some great banter. So, you know what? The Overlord got built at some point in time. Didn't actually note it too explicitly because a lot of people like Overlord on 10 and Extractor Trick. A lot of people like Overlord on 9. And it looks like we see a 14 Extractor, build a drone, 14 pool. Just want to see how that timing lines up. Yep, it looks like we are making ourselves a 2 more drones. In my experience, make an Overlord on 15. All right, that's perfect. Now, the reason we're building this Overlord on 15 is because right when this hatches, we want to make 3 Zerglings and a Queen. Well, it looks like 2 Zerglings and a Queen because of when he timed this. And obviously, look at us getting past 18 food. Pretty easy, and we're getting our speed. And we actually get 6 Zerglings. And it's kind of funny to note that little things like these 2 Zerglings are easy to miss. These are very easy to miss. Now, I can't believe I'm forgetting this, but I think it's something like 1 worker mines 35 minerals per minute. 35 to 45 minerals per minute. Oh God, I can't believe I'm forgetting that number. How embarrassing. But it's something like that. So let's just pick the easiest number of what I said. 40, that's an easy number to do math on. If I build 2 Zerglings instead of 2 drones, that means that those 2 drones immediately together is minus 80 minerals 1 minute later. 2 minutes later, I'm down 160 minerals just because I didn't build those 2 drones. Right? Obvious math continuing on. So, Idra, who I watched, do really thin timings, he'll do something like get 1 Zergling and then all the rest drones. And then when you look at him versus all the other Zerg players, that's why he can sneak in an Evolution Chamber or sneak in a Roach Warren, is because he has a little extra tiny bit of minerals. And that's something that I want to really think about hard when I'm on my last little step, right? I know his big game plan is Roach Hydra. I know that his general principles of when he's getting Burrow and all this and all that. And right now, I'm just trying to steal some little refinement back home. Oh, look at this. It looks like he's actually not going to spend this 20-second food larva. He's actually going to save that up, throw himself down a hatchery. We see a queen popping out. She's going to do her little Gakken action. And holy crap, 2 more Zerglings and a drone. Whoa. This actually is very unusual to me, because like you watch Morrow play, Morrow will actually do the exact same build, but just throw out like 4 Zerglings, and that's it. And he will only have those 4 Zerglings, and he'll use this opening as like a very long-term focused play. But here, holy crap, 10 Zerglings right out the gate. You baller, Sheth. Oh my God. It's all right, sweet. Now here's an interesting question. When should I build this Overlord? Ah, damn it. Don't build it then. Brr. This is a question I actually ask myself a lot. Should I be building this Overlord on 22? Should I build one more unit? Like, we're going to see this, hold on. We're going to see this little larva pop out. Come on, little larva, because I have to select it just in time. Yes, there it is. An Overlord takes 25 seconds to build. Larva pop out once every 15 seconds. And we see here that it looks like there is 25 seconds left on that. So yes, this very clearly is the optimal time to build this Overlord. You'll say something like Overlord on 22 is when I build an Overlord. But if you think about it, we're building an Overlord because we just did a larva inject, and a little bit after you do a larva inject, you should throw down an Overlord. So I want you to note my thought process during that entire period of refinement. What I did was I saw what he did, Overlord on 22. I did a bunch of calculation where I said, 25 seconds to build an Overlord. So that way the Overlord will pop right when the larva pops off. Okay, good, that timing lines up. And then I just set it as a general concept. I'm going to forget all the calculations by later tonight, I guarantee you. But what I'm going to remember is, if you're kind of high on food, you should build an Overlord right after you do a larva inject. And now I can even say something smarter, right? Let's say I had 1 hatchery and I was going Roach and I was at 22 food. And I had 2 larvae here. I should actually build them both as Overlords, because I know that those 2 Overlords are gonna pop right when my larva finishes off. I'm starting to get it. So I can now begin to say confidently that I should be really thinking about when I build Overlords based upon when I vomit larva. That is not something that I thought about before today, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm a hero. Looks like Grubby with a low force field, and that's fine. I'm allowed to tease Grubby because, as we see, he wins this game. Alright, cool. We see yet another queen getting produced. Yet another queen. And hey, look at that. Overlord popping off at the exact same time. Now, here's something silly that I want to say. When should this next Overlord be getting constructed? Looks like we don't see an Overlord here anywhere quite yet. I want to see if my suspicion was correct. Yeah, we see another Overlord popping up. And as we can see, it's not right after the larva ended up getting vomited, but it's quite close, right? I'm just going to keep staring at this sort of Overlord timing and see if I can relate it to this vomiting. I'm kind of ignoring stuff. Yeah, look, here's an Overlord getting started. Yeah, Overlord getting started right around the time we're going to add more larvae down here. Come on, do your thing. Come on, Queenie. Come on. Come on. Alright, she's being indignant. I don't care. I don't care. Alright, sweet. So, from the period of right when we saw the opening till now, we have literally only seen drones get made. And the only really important thing was when the hell do we make Overlords? And what we did is we turned it from times like Overlord on 22, Overlord on 30, into a concept. Make Overlords right around the time that you have just vomited larvae. So right when all that larva pops off the hatch, the next larva that pops off, you should probably turn into an Overlord. Or maybe one of the 4 that pops off is an Overlord, and the next one's also an Overlord. That's going to be useful no matter what time I'm at in the game. God, that water tastes so good. It's like 300 episodes good. Alright, nifty. So we see guys get thrown right back into gas. It looks like around the 40-second mark. Or excuse me, 40 food mark. We see no additional drones getting produced. Excuse me, no additional Zerglings getting produced. We're still wandering around with these Zerglings. There's this precautionary queen getting thrown down. Look, queen and Evolution Chamber and Roach Warren all kind of get thrown down at the same time, and what triggers it is this gas. And what I'm going to venture to guess is that whenever we see these phoenixes, there's the phoenix getting seen, and we're going to cancel this Roach Warren. We're going to immediately respond by building a second queen. God almighty, that was a fast reaction time. Holy crap, he reacted fast. Look at this. Overlord's at like 160 health, and he's already has a queen a couple seconds in. Man, good hero. Oh my god. And, oh, I hope everyone just saw what I saw. This Evolution Chamber hatches exactly when we have 100 gas. Oh, alright, so I'm going to back this up a little bit. Here are going to come up some very key mechanics concepts, which is less when exactly do I build something in terms of food, and more when exactly do I build something in relationship to another thing. So we see some guys start mining some gas when our Evolution Chamber starts. It looks like at around 30 gas, 36 gas. Huh, that's actually a very, very cool little timing to note. I can actually just throw guys back in gas, and as long as I count to 10 and then build an Evolution Chamber, I'm going to have enough for an upgrade. There it is! Yes, there it is. Fantastissimo. And when are all these Zerglings getting made? This is actually a pretty common timing. You flood a bunch of Zerglings right when he's gearing up to take his expansion. And it's actually really freaking annoying to deal with. And, so he even sees the Phoenix. Now, you're noticing I'm drifting between decision-making, responding, / refinement. I love little ultra clever cutesy timings. We're going to look at just a couple more in a moment here. But part of me is saying, okay, now is a good time mechanically to build the Zerglings. In terms of refinement and timing, if you build a bunch of Zerglings right now and an Overlord right now, you are all good. You have no larvae hanging out. Yeah. But I also want to say, you saw a Phoenix. Is it right or wrong to make Zerglings? This is actually, I think, a pretty clever response to build a whole bunch of Zerglings. Because if your opponent is making a bunch of air units like Phoenixes, or even Void Rays, the worst thing is Zerglings, because you can't really charge up on them well, you don't want to waste Graviton Beams, and in particular, these Zerglings are going to be very, very, very good at being aggressive early on against this sort of mixture. And we're seeing Sheth not get any sort of upgrade here. It may have been the wisest decision to do that. I'm trying to see if we end up seeing any sort of bumpiness here. We see some larva that's just sort of like hanging out here. Looks like it's a direct result of having those spore crawlers up. But here comes the Zerglings en masse. This is the one part we didn't actually get the chance to look at too thoroughly. And also I just want to throw out there, I think spore crawlers on the outside are a little bit better. I'm more worried about my queens than about my drones, if he's going for 1 big phoenixes. And there's the surround, and... Ooh, Grubby, you are good at this game, Grubby. Oh, man. By the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with just pulling back all your Zerglings when they get force-fielded that well. There was a retreat path that was open. So, I think the most noteworthy thing that we're seeing right here is that, wow, look at all the extra food. 57 of 92. And we can even see that there's some larvae that we could have built a little bit earlier in that whole process. So, it's kind of funny because StarCraft 2 is in a very interesting state. Where right when StarCraft 2 came out, there was all this variance that was going on in terms of strategy. You know, there was the infamous double Hellion opening against Zerg, the Mass Reaper with speed opening against Zerg, the 5 Rax Reaper into expand for Zerg, like crazy awesome builds. Continuing on that matchup, there were a lot of 2-port Banshees openings against Zerg. Just a lot of variety, right? And people sort of like drifted along this direction. Maybe a Hellion Thor Banshee mix is best. That was experimented along with Zerg, and then sort of maybe gone this way. Maybe only Marine with Medevac is best. It's like Marine King Prime style. And now we're sort of drifted back to, okay, about Marines and tanks plus little bits of variety, but you want a core Marines and tanks. Oh, cool. That's what's happened. We've seen this kind of like drift and kind of people saying, yes, is about the unit mix that we want. And now what's going to happen is we're going to see people take the refinement really, really far ahead. And what's so cool about that point is that the game becomes very, very, very subtle in terms of its influence. What it used to be the case was, is he going for Arobo? Okay, I will go for Aspire. And that was your whole logic. Cool. And in Brood War, what was so cool to see is that people would say things like, you need to build Overlords to where you have 59 food. Do not build the Overlord so that you're at 67 food. That's too much money. If you do that, you can't get your 3rd hatch up quickly enough. You need to cut that 1 Overlord, and then when you build your huge flood of Mutalisks, you will be at 55 food, and then you build another Overlord and 2 more Mutalisks. So that way you will be at 59 and 59 right when your Overlord starts hatching, and that's when you go back to drones. Like, 59 food, that number is like just drilled into my head from playing Brood War, right? And here, we're starting to see that, you know, timings sort of line up nicely and all this good jazz, and it's so easy just to sort of spam V in a situation like this. And if I had to say anything that ended up being Sheth's downfall, I just would say that there's a few too many Overlords. I mean, if we just think about it, like, what is this? How much food is a frickin' Overlord? Is it like 9 food, something like that? 8 food? Pff, I should know that. Who cares, man? Whatever. Overlord, way high on food. At least 4 more Overlords than are actually necessary. 3 more Overlords than are actually necessary. So that's an extra 300, so that's like a hatchery here, right? That is a huge, huge amount of extra minerals. And what we're going to see, just sort of continuing all along this period of time, and by the way, these Overlords were a little out of place. We could have, saved these Overlords. All the money we spent on these Overlords could have been spent on Queens, or maybe extra Spore Crawlers earlier. We could have defended and not lost so many Overlords. As we're going to see when the Hydralisk Den ends up coming out, we're still a little bit low on mana. A little bit low on... Oh, you poor thing. Oh, God, this poor little... Oh, little guy. Oh, how tragic. Oh. Yeah, I'm more and more I'm looking at this, the more it's just like, yeah, those a lot of Overlords. And you can even see it manifest in that there's just a little bit too much gas coming out here. And that right when this Hydralisk Den pops out, we don't quite have enough minerals for all of everything. But even so, the important thing is that we learned some very, very nice little timing tips that we can steal and be more Sheth-like. Hello, welcome back. It's still the 300th episode. It's the 300th episode. Whoa, man, getting all tongue twisted up. Still the 300th episode. We were about to go into one game from Sheth, just get a few more timings before question time, but as I predicted, my computer did in fact explode. And what a better way to celebrate the 300th daily than to have it perfectly encapsulate how much ridiculous stress and time constraintness I'm under than to have my daily crash right at the end of the daily. Let's go right back into the game, because I just wanted to briefly pop into this final game between Sheth and D-Bling, one of the games that we watched at the start, because we're just watching some Zerver's Protoss timings. Alright, sweet. Let's, come on, sweetie, come on, here, I'll just coax it along. Come on, load their little computer. Come on, you can do it. Come on, darling. Come on, sweet thing. Come on, go ahead. You can do it, I believe in you. Come on, right here. Come on, come over here. There you go. Sweet. It's like a cat. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead. Let's do this. Let's see how many of the timings that we saw last game we see end up arising this game. You'll start to see little tiny things. I wanted to go through big picture first, the broad general sense of what he was doing, dig down into some small, subtler timings, and then I want to get into really, really fine refinement. But I only want to do that as a last step. That is my final thing. There's no overlay up. I have no desire to put it up. I can put up the big one, but whatever. I'll do as I please. Ooh, man, he sure is indignant on his show. So there's the extractor going down, the pool going down at the usual 14 timing, more drones being made. We saw an overlord on 15. Are we going to see that again this time? You bet your butt. You would be willing to put your butt in a bet and win, likely. You would have 2 butts. That is great news. Spawning pool now finishing, and we see 2 Zerglings popping out. What is Sheth seen? Oh, he does see an early expand go down. Still opts to get 6 Zerglings. Will he get the 8th? Will he get an 8th Zergling? Yeah, wow, he still is... Oh, don't crash on me again. Oh, thank goodness. He still is getting that 8th Zergling. That's actually pretty darn cool. Pretty goosh darn cool. That is great news. Want to see some other little timings, and when is he going to be getting the Overlord? Looks like, a little late on that Overlord timing, but it still turns out that, yep, right at 22 is the correct one, because we did get a little bit supply blocked. Getting a second Queen at approximately the same time. I want to note some other little fun jazz that we're going to see here. Yep, making drones. And when does this guy go down? Well, it gets sent, but here is where you can actually steal timings and refinements without actually seeing the opponent do it. Like, we see Sheth throw this down at 610, and we can just measure the distance from here to here and then send a drone at that time. This looks like about 20 seconds of distance between the bases. So Sheth sent his a little bit early. I would maybe send mine at like 32 food or something like that. And we see, wow, interestingly, Sheth does not have enough money to support a hatch at this time. He actually does not. So that is something that I would want to just keep in my little back pocket. And another thing that I would want to be careful of is not spending all my larvae at one hatch and then having more than 4 larvae at another hatch. And look at this. We see these overlords getting constructed right after larva vomits, exactly as before. Once he takes that 3rd base, putting guys back into the extractor, we are going along a little bit too late. So just want to note, clever timings that you can do right after your layer begins. When you are 20 seconds in, you can just build yourself a roach warren and a hatch, and everything shall be completed in due time. So, unfortunately, we ended up breaking the rhythm just a little bit, but I want to note that this is a very, very, very easy, fun, quick way to get well acquainted with a race. Just to get a replay pack from someone. We did Sheth. You can get his replay packs at fxosheth.com. Watch through a lot of games pretty swiftly, so you get a big picture sense of where that player is going. And you want to make sure you understand what that player is doing. You don't want to say something like, I really want to go Spire in all my games, and then watch Sheth play and try to figure out how you could throw a Spire in there. First, you want to understand exactly what he's up to. So get that big game picture sense out there first. As we've seen, Sheth has been up against all-ins. He's been up against pretty typical gateway plays. There's some more replays in this pack of him against Colossus. We've seen him against some mass air in here. And then, once you see that player in those situations, you can start to see the decisions that they make in going towards their overall game plan, where they bend and twist and get Hydras this way, or how they end up sneaking an upgrade in that way. And if you are somehow bad with just the overall mechanics and timings. You can steal a lot, but always make sure that you can translate what you learned into little rules, because you do not want to be in a situation where you say something like, I just get an overlord at X food. You want to say a generalization, because now I guarantee you, upon saying every time you vomit larva, consider throwing down 1 or 2 overlords. That's going to help a lot of Zerg players out there. So, yeah, that's going to wrap up the 300th daily. The schedule for next week's going to be very weird because I'm graduating. So definitely no daily on Thursday next week. There may be more cancellations, but probably not. So Fun Day Monday next week is the Hero Unit Fun Day Monday. Submit a game where you select a unit to be the hero, hotkey him as 0, and again get him to over 50 kills. And we will follow the story of your heroes. Submit those to Monday at day9.tv. Thanks to Reddit for that great suggestion. No Newbie Tuesday next week because I simply do not have time. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, within 1 week, I will be doing Starcraft full-time. That'll be my job. Now I'm going to go because I am unbelievably hungry. I heart all of you so much. Thanks for watching the daily through crash, through thickness. Yeah, that's right, through thickness and in health. Yes, indeed. Ladies and gents, have yourself a good evening.